This is going to be a master class on this subject because we're masters at it. There are some lessons in life you can only learn and levels of wisdom that you can only learn by your world falling down and you getting up on the other side of that and start walking forward.
I think we want pastors to hear this, whether they are where we were or about to be, because some of them are about to be and they don't know it yet.
Yep.
For some, their greatest failure may be ahead of them.
You'll probably not find three people more compassionate to your secret struggles than us.
You're listening to the Misfit Preachers, Tullian, Jean LaRue, and Byron Yan from prodigalpodcast.com. We're plagiarizing Jesus one podcast at a time. Now, here are the Misfits.
Welcome to Misfit Preachers.
Bonus episode.
Bonus episode.
Didn't see that coming, did they?
It's a curveball with a very specific target. It's Maddox on the inside. So, as usual, I am here with the Misfits, Jean LaRue III, a.k.a. J3. I'm going to keep saying
LaRue.
it. And Tullian Chivijan.
Always good to be here.
All right. It is a bonus episode and a very specific episode targeted at a very specific group of people. And as it turns out, this is going to be a master class on this subject because we're masters at it. Mm. And as far as I know, gentlemen, I've never seen this happen, right?
What's this?
People, individuals, pastors in ministry who have failed in extraordinary ways, go big or go home, have processed through that, have repented and begin making amends, restoring their lives, recovering their faith and walk in faith, who've been given opportunity like this and then turn around and attempt to show compassion towards a group of people that are very isolated, right? Now, one of the things that's in our minds, and if we look at it objectively, it's true, that we would disqualify hearing from people that have been through what we've been through, as if what we did disqualifies everything we ever preached, right? What we did, and in particular, what we've learned. In my mind, and I could justify this biblically, it is, I think, a very good idea to rethink that and reframe that. It is in everybody's best interest always to sit at the feet of failure, even in their own lives or the lives of other people, and take notes. There's more wisdom there than you can really find anywhere else. Now, in this particular case, you have three men who went through pretty severe
crashes and burns.
Yep. Yes, thank you. And have come out the other side with a desire to share from within our experience to the broad community of humanity out there that here's what we went through, here are the mistakes we made, here's where our mind was, and here's why it will destroy you. Pay attention to what we have to say. Mm-hmm. So we're coming, regardless of whether the listener, and I would just say the critics, believe it or not, and I don't care, we're really coming at this from a very, very compassionate, sympathetic, and empathetic perspective. So that's just to set the tone, and I'll let you guys...
Now, did you say the target, where you said aimed at a very specific target? Who are we talking to today?
Well, I'm assuming that they've read the title of the episode. We're talking to pastors. This goes out specifically to pastors.
Okay.
And from the beginning, we don't assume that you are like us. We don't assume that you were where we are. And we don't assume that you're hiding some giant secret, although there are always secrets, or that your life is on the precipice of collapse, that you've done something, hopefully, by God's grace, you're faithful in your role and will remain that way forever. But I will say this. There are some lessons in life you can only learn and levels of wisdom that you can only learn by your world falling down and you getting up on the other side of that and start walking forward.
That is empirically true.
Yep.
Anyway.
Well, the old saying is the burned hand teaches best.
Yeah.
Anyway, just fill in here on the intro so that people know the spirit in which we're offering them.
I think we want pastors to hear this, whether they are where we were or about to be, because some of them are about to be and they don't know it yet.
Yep.
For some, their greatest failure may be ahead of them. So it may not be immediately relevant to you now, but it may be. I had a friend of mine tell me years ago, we preach grace even to the people who don't think they need it now because they will at some point. They'll remember what you say when the diagnosis comes in, that sort of thing. So I think it's important, obviously, for pastors to hear this, but I also think everybody, at least in the religious world, has an opinion about what churches, the Christian community ought to do or the way they ought to approach a Christian leader or a pastor who bottoms out, who crashes and burns. So while we want preachers, pastors, Christian leaders to hear that their greatest failure may be their greatest gift to those who hear them, we also want to help steer the conversation away from what it typically is, which is guys like us who at any point in their time as a pastor or a Christian leader fall and fall big should go away and never emerge. Go sell insurance, go sell cars. I can't tell you how many times I have heard from, strangers on social media, go find a job. Yes, you can be forgiven by God, but you can never be restored to any form of Christian leadership. You had one shot. I heard a prominent pastor in Southern California not long ago say, when it comes to the ministry, you have one shot. And if you blow it, you're out for good, forever. Wow. And I think that's what a lot of people have been taught. That's what many people think. And so for the people who have been taught that, or the people who think that, we want to give perhaps a different perspective on this.
And in my mind, along the same lines, is saying to guys out there who haven't had the big blow up, haven't had the disdain of being the target of blogs and posts and all that kind of stuff, you'll probably not find three people more compassionate to your secret struggles than us.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, and I mean nothing, that you could email us, tell us, talk to us. I mean, there would be nothing that wouldn't would make us, because the truth is we know the fear that you live in.
Yeah. And this is a context in which sin does not shock and grace still amazes. So I concur. If you need to confess something and not see a shocked reaction, we're the guys.
Yep.
And the beauty of this medium, a podcast,
yes,
is that you don't have to associate with us publicly to benefit from us digitally.
You can listen to us in secret.
You don't have
headphones.
You don't have to tell your board. You don't have to tell your favorite preacher. You don't have to tell your seminary. You don't have to tell your denomination. You don't have to tell anybody. You can just listen.
Just listen.
Yeah.
And take notes.
So let me begin with this. And here, let's assume that it's not all pastors that are listening.
No.
Right?
No.
Let me describe how difficult the role of pastor is. Okay? It's not the theological training. It's not the sermon prep. That's the hardest. It's not even caring for the people. Typically, that's the greater joy of it all. It's not the schedule. It's not being on call 24 hours a day. It's all of it. And I've mentioned this when I told my story, but I just want to elaborate on it a little more, if I can, if you guys will allow me. There's a phenomenon known as offset identity disorder. Happens in careers or industries where in order to do it, you have to dedicate your entire life towards it. Military, professional sports, various other industries like that. CEOs, particularly entrepreneurial startups, are part of it as well. And essentially the theory is that in order to do it, you have to dedicate your entire life to it over a long period of time to master it, which means that there are certain normal experiences in life you don't get to participate in. So all that socialization and interaction experience that are on the outside of it is very limited in your life, right? To do it, you have to dedicate totally towards it. And by the time you get towards the end of whatever that career is, you leave that career. And when you step out of it, you realize that what you were doing, you confused with who you are. Mm-hmm. And you panic at the end of that because your identity was what you were doing. Now, here's how that applies to pastoral ministry, the role of pastoral ministry, and why it's worse. And I would argue that the hardest role on the planet is pastoral ministry. It's a blessed role, it's a privileged role. All of those things are true, but there's no other role where finances, community, family, church, career, spirituality, friendships, relationships are all stacked together. You pull one of those out, it's like a giant Jenga, they all fall down.
That's correct.
And there's no role out there that is in more danger of supplanting their actual humanity with an avatar of ministry than the pastoral role. That in and of itself creates a very unique danger. And here's how I'll summarize this. If you're just not in ministry and are listening, I'm going to tell you something that's absolutely true. Your pastor has never, ever, ever, ever been completely honest with you about themselves.
True statement.
Ever. And any pastor who's listening, you know it's true. Why? Because the moment their humanity breaches the surface of their reality and you see it, they are done. They're disqualified. Right?
Yeah, if it makes it out uncurated. Because I'll speak for myself. I was an expert at letting it out, but where I controlled the flow.
Right.
So it comes out as actually a subtle illustration of my victorious application of Jesus rather than an actual illustration of the fact that I was an asshole.
Right. So pastors are confessors, but have none. Right? They don't. There's nobody they can go to be human, broken, and completely honest. And that reality is what, in my opinion, not in everyone, leads to a lot of the events that are taking place with notifications on your phone about another pastor has fallen. Mm-hmm. Is that everything? No, but at some point you got to look at the sample size and listen. I'm just going to say it. If the assumption is that our theology was the cause, there's one of our episodes you can go listen to. If you think our theology was the cause of our downfall, I think the sample size is large enough in other denominations and other traditions that mutes that completely. It mutes
Absolutely.
it completely. So I just want to give the listener a context for just the gravity and the pull on humanity within the pastoral role.
You've been listening to the Misfit Preachers. Like, subscribe, and share. More grace-centered resources at prodigalpodcasts.com. That's Prodigal, Prodigal, podcasts with an S.com.